Gracefully and Frankly is made possible by the Canadian all-natural anti-inflammatory Sierra Sil. If you feel younger than your age, except for knee and other joint pain, you have to give these capsules in 3 different formulas and powder and spray a try. They're keeping Rob and me going as we log so many steps a day getting ready to move.
They're keeping my husband pain-free, too.
Yay!
Check them out at sierrasil.com. Sierra like the mountains, Sil, S-I-L.com, and use the code GF for 10% off your purchase.
Hey, welcome to episode 73. Boy, we have a lot of ground to cover today, and some of it we're going to recline on a therapist's couch. Just not the one we used to. It's a lot, and we're going to share that with you because it made us just sick last week.
I don't know about you. I love surprises, but this was not a good one.
No. We also like to laugh a lot, as you know from listening to the previous 72 episodes. And you did that. You saw somebody we all know in concert.
Kathy Griffin is back out on the road. Her penalty for making fun of number 45 in a not-so-tasteful way is apparently been lifted, and she's back out on the road.
Yay, you were there, and Lisa will give us her whole bird's eye account of Kathy Griffin.
You saw the Aurora Borealis.
Yeah, me and everybody else on Earth, but you've already been there, done that. So we'll talk about Lisa's staying up all night to see it on a different continent.
You know what's funny is the meme going around showing the Aurora Borealis and everybody, and then somebody fast asleep and it says me on it.
Yeah.
There are quite a few people who slept through it.
I like the people who are just posting rooftops and then little squiggles that they've drawn on their phone. I think it's hilarious.
That's funny, too.
It did not disappoint, but it reminds us that if the sun ever explodes, boy, it's going to be pretty for those last few seconds of our lives, Lisa.
We won't get to tell anybody about it.
And virtual staging. Have you done it? What do you think of it? Okay, nothing virtual about the people at Envy Pillow. 100% genuine. In fact, this is a great story. Lisa almost got a gig endorsing somebody else.
You're right. So I was approached by a company. You know, we think you're a perfect fit and blah, blah, blah. We know what you've done. We know what you look like. Will you please do an endorsement? And I said, well, I have to know what the product is, of course. It was a pillow.
Oh!
And of course, because it's not an Envy pillow, it was a far inferior pillow, and it made all these claims with nothing to back it up. And I just immediately said, nope, I've got my pillow for life. Thank you. Go away. Because the Envy pillow is what I sleep on every night, thanks to you, Aaron Davis, who introduced me to it. And all the claims made about the Envy pillow are truths. Sustainable and natural and Canadian made, and has copper in it to get rid of I call them greebly gromlets, little bacteria and things on your skin. And it's just the best thing for my neck.
Find out more at envypillow, envypillow.com, the website, and for Sierra Sil. It's all in the show notes. Go and find the pillow that's right for you. Too bad about that $1 million, though, Lisa. Would have come in handy.
Yeah. Well, you can't win them all.
Scream into your Envy pillow.
So this big Aurora Borealis spreading all over the universe, this was the first time that you were able to see the Northern Lights?
It was. It was.
That's so great.
Thank you. Yeah, we stayed up. And there's Rob. I mean, we're out on the deck, and honestly, it's one of the rare occasions where it's better to see it through your phone and through the camera because it actually caught the colors so much more vividly than we could with the naked eye. And so, like, it's getting to be 11:30, 20 to 12, and we've got the grandkids with us. And he's going, yeah, I'm going to go to bed. And I said, this is once in a lifetime. We can do without half an hour of sleep. Lisa, I'll never forget the time we went to see Elton John and Billy Joel in concert together in Toronto. And we left before the encore because I had to get to bed. You know the morning hours. You're getting up at 3:30, 4 o'clock.
Oh, yeah.
And I had to get out before the crowd did. And I've never looked back with regret on something that I did, you know, in that kind of a genre so much in my life. Like, we should have stayed for the encore. So I'm thinking, no, we're not missing this because we want to go to sleep.
Right.
So we stayed up, we saw it, and honest to God, it was the first time in my 61 years. So I write to you and I go, oh, I was disappointed. And then I wrote again and said, no, we saw it. And you're like, blowing out your virtual cigarette saying, oh yeah, I've seen them like 1,000 times.
That's not true. I was happy for you. But yeah, I did. I have seen it a bunch of times. And in fact, in Iceland.
Oh, well. Oh, we're dropping Iceland now. Okay, this is how it's going to go.
But the night that we were supposed to go out and see them on this big bus tour, and there were all these buses and all these tourists were going, it was cloudy.
Oh.
So everybody except our bus missed it. But our bus driver and our tour guide said, look, if you want to stay out, I'll stay out all night so that you get to see this. Everybody else went home at like 9:30, and we went around, and he was on his two-way going, oh, I hear there's a break in clouds over here, so we take off over there, and it's like, no. And we eventually did. About 1 o'clock in the morning, we finally saw the Northern Lights in Iceland, and all those people who went home didn't, so
good.
It was pretty cool.
You stayed for the encore.
Yeah.
You guys were kind of like the opposite of the Twister movie, right? Instead of chasing clouds and storms, you were chasing clear spots.
Yes. Yeah, it was just one of those nights that happened to be overcast. And even clouds over Iceland are different than we've ever seen anywhere else. I don't know how to describe it, but I am so with you on leaving early and wishing I hadn't for things, but always watching the clock. Mm-hmm. We had to do it, though. So
yeah.
No regrets, I guess, but there are times that I wish I had spent more time with people or whatever.
Yeah. Well, certainly you're free of it now in your rewirement phase because you went to see a headliner in a comedy show. Tell us about that.
Well, last year I took my friend Dan. When Derek gave me tickets for John Mulaney, he said, I won't be going with you because he doesn't really care for him. Mm-hmm. So I called my friend Amanda and said, may I borrow your husband Dan? And she said, absolutely. So I took Dan. So Amanda and Dan took me to Kathy Griffin. She is back after not working for 6 years after holding the severed fake head of Donald Trump in a photo and being canceled like no one's been canceled before. She's also had lung cancer. She's got half a lung on one side. They nicked her vocal cords, so she doesn't sound the same. She's in AA. She's gotten sober. She and her husband broke up, and it broke her heart. Yeah. But you would not believe the dishy stories she tells. If anybody's having trouble remembering Kathy Griffin, this is from one of her earlier specials, and it's the kind of gossipy, dishy stuff she loves to tell.
The problem is I've been around too long. I've presented at these shows, I've lost at these shows, I've hosted these shows. So they all know me. So it wouldn't even occur to any of these poor ushers to think I, at 51 years old, stole a Grammy seat from an actual nominee. It was pathetic. I was across from Bruno Mars, who was great because he was a sore loser, and that's my favorite kind of nominee. And because when you lose, you're supposed to be gracious. No, every time Bruno Mars lost, he was like... And I was just fanning the fire, so I was across the aisle just going, oh. You were robbed.
Yeah, she steals a seat at the Grammys. You won't believe who her closest friends are.
Okay. Dished.
Jane Fonda.
What?
Because of going through, she didn't mention this, but I think it's because of Jane going through the whole Hanoi Jane thing and being an early version of being canceled. That they have that in common. Sharon Stone, one of her very good friends. She's also very close to Sia, the singer.
Right, who is really strong in the addiction community.
Yep. And they went to Mexico together to recover from facelifts they had together.
But Sia's the one who wears the wig that goes all the way over her face.
I know.
You can't write that off on your taxes, girl.
Well, as it turns out, she just had the wig trimmed. No, I'm not.
Yeah, maybe.
And Paris Hilton is another close friend of hers because Paris Hilton's gone through her own thing. So she told stories that they approved that were okay, but they're funny, ridiculous stuff. And yeah, it's just very dishy. And she's really into the reality shows, which I'm not.
Yeah.
But, it was a lot of fun, and everybody was great. I have to tell you, though, a couple walked in with Donald Trump sneakers on.
Oh, jeez.
And A guy I know, Andrew, who happened to be there, went, oh my goodness, what are they doing here? Do they not know where they are? And so we kind of braced ourselves, but nothing happened. Everything was good. I don't know if they wore them ironically. I have no idea, but it was interesting.
Ironically or moronically,
That's
as
right.
the case may be. So how was her voice? Like that clip we heard was before her surgery, right?
Yes, and now she doesn't have the power, and it's a little squeakier, but she does wear a lavalier mic, a little headset, and so even I could hear her.
Good.
But she did say that the only talk show host that would have her on because of her voice was Jimmy Kimmel. Nobody else would touch her.
Wow. Kimmel's a mensch. I love his show. We record it every single night. I just love him.
He was my mom's favorite, and he's a mensch, and he's so sensitive. He bursts into tears, and he's a sweetie.
Yeah. So this was in London that you went to see her?
Yeah, Centennial Hall in London. Not a giant hall, but a storied one, and it was sold out.
Great. So, was there a feel that you got from the show? Was it warmth? What kind of a feeling was the crowd giving to Kathy Griffin?
Total, we got you, girl. Mm-hmm. And the woman sitting beside me powered back a couple of beers and was shouting back at almost everything she said. Yeah, my elbow couldn't reach her, or I would have. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, it was very warm, very happy to see her. And she must have stopped about 6 or 7 times during the show and just said, I can't tell you how much I appreciate that you bought tickets and you've employed me again, because she just sat at home for 6 years wondering if she still had a career.
How much were the tickets?
I don't even know, because I didn't buy them.
Well, good for you. That sounds like a great night out.
So to give you context, John Mulaney was at Budweiser Gardens, which is the huge arena in town. Mm-hmm. So, Kathy's building herself back up, but she's selling out everywhere she's going, and she's got date after date after date, and it's nice to see her get her mojo back.
Yeah, it turns out she could have been almost a neighbor of ours here on Vancouver Island. That was one of the stories she told?
Yes, she said that they were looking at a place in Victoria, and she wanted to move when all of this stuff happened with the photograph, and she was getting death threats. I mean, it was really scary stuff.
Yeah.
And she wanted to move to Canada. And she said, you wouldn't have me. And everybody's like, what? Because you can't live here full time, just like we can't go to the States and live there full time if you're not a citizen, right? So they pulled back on that and decided not to. So she lives in Malibu now. So I think she's doing okay.
I hope so. It's nice to see somebody rising from the ashes. You mentioned the MAGA sneakers, and I guess it's an analogy for something that traumatized us last week. I felt very heavy, sad, disappointed. Let's set the table for this. You and I share a therapist.
Right.
We don't do our appointments at the same time. You introduced me to him because he helped you a lot, and he has been a godsend to us in the last 3 or 4 months. There's been a lot of change in our lives, things that we've had to kind of decide upon, and then how to go forward with it and have the courage and strength to do things. And he has been a godsend, and I will always thank you for that.
Yeah, I had no idea. I appreciate that, Erin, because, I don't recommend anything or anyone lightly, especially someone so important and influential as a therapist. And he has been amazing for me. There has been no hint in anything that he's done that he is anything. I would have thought he was a feminist. And I know that he is very religious, but we talked about that at the beginning. And I said, I'm not. Can we go light on that? And he agreed, and he always has. And maybe twice in the many years that I've been seeing him, he has mentioned either the Bible or whatever, and that's perfectly fine.
Sure, of course.
So my last visit with him, I said, I'm ready for a break. I don't know how long it's going to be, but I feel good. I just want a break. And now I think that break is going to be permanent.
Me too.
And I guess we should explain why, because I found out he was on Instagram, and I said, hey, our therapist is on Instagram, and he revealed that he's an anti-vaxxer.
Now, this is where we put in the disclaimer. We don't want to talk about vaccines anymore.
No.
We're done with that. It's not a hill we want to die on. You do you. Believe what you want to believe. Just keep us safe is all we ask. So, yeah, he's an anti-vaxxer. He says he's anti-government control.
Yeah.
Because we called him on it. He brought up a post from the Prime Minister from 4 years ago when we were all just kind of learning, should we take the AstraZeneca? Do we take whatever brand is out there? We just wanted to get shots in our arms, many of us, in order to prevent ourselves from dying and ending up in a refrigerated truck, which is actually what was happening 4 years ago.
Yeah, so to bring that out now and to say that the Prime Minister was forcing us to get the vaccine, it was revisionist history that fits his narrative.
Right.
And it was really, I thought my head was going to explode. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. So you and I both wrote, "Is this what you mean?" And he doubled down.
Yeah, he did. So try and picture, and we were going to post and say, what would you do in this case? What if your caregiver had completely opposite views to you, whether they were, well, I don't even have to give examples.
Right.
You can probably think of one, whether it's political or religious or misogynist or bigoted or any of the things that really raise red flags for you. What if, and are you cutting off your nose to spite your face if you separate yourself from this person? Because not knowing this about him was fine, because he gave great advice.
Yeah.
And advice that we both took to heart and which made our lives better. But knowing this, it was a gut punch. I felt sick about it. You felt sick about it for days last week. It was just, I guess, is it disappointing?
Yeah, and I think for me, knowing him as well as I think I do, and having gone to him for years, I went over and over in my head, was there ever any indication of any of this? The religious stuff is all well and good. I mean, you do you, right?
Freedom of religion is being free to practice without imposing.
Yes.
That's what freedom of religion is to us.
And he never imposed. The couple times he used religion, it was only to give me examples. And I got it. It's fine. But I never saw any of this. I never saw him being anti-government, anti-anything, even beyond which political scope you want. He is anti-government. There was none of that, or I never, ever would have said, hey, this is a great guy, you should talk to him, or, I would have run screaming.
Yeah.
It just doesn't fit with how I see the world, and there are so many therapists and so many people doing that kind of job that you don't have to go with somebody you don't align with.
It's so hard once you open your heart and
Yes.
open your lives. We thought no one would ever understand our unique, screwed up, wonderful family dynamic, because in part we didn't understand it. And it was him being able to step back and say, okay, here's what you need to see. And one of the best pieces of advice, Lisa, that he gave to me, and nothing will ever take this away, was you need to stop expecting other people to do what you would do. It's like whether you get mad at people for not putting their shopping cart away at Costco, or something as mundane as that, or something much, much bigger. Stop expecting people to behave as you would behave.
Yeah.
He has a lot of wisdom, but I guess what it comes down to is judgment. And that's what scares me the most. And it's what made you and I feel so, I don't know, betrayed, stupid. Is it like falling in love with someone and then finding out that he protested something that you truly believed in the 1980s or 90s? I don't know. I'm having trouble finding an analogy that fits this.
Well, here's how I've decided to look at it, but this is for me, because I've been with the guy for a long time for therapy, is I paid him for his advice. It was a transaction. It was a business deal. And, he knows everything about me, I would say, but I'm past feeling vulnerable with him or feeling that there's any kind of a power differential or anything, which I may have felt at first when I needed his help so badly. And so I've chosen to look at it that way. And like I say, I've gone back over and over the stuff, and there's nothing with his internal bias on it. I know there isn't. It's just been really good advice, really sensible, taken at face value and given back in an applicable way.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at it like a business deal that's over.
Yeah, it's over for me too. And that's hard, because it is someone that we truly thought was going to help us navigate the choppy waters ahead. But I guess the work is over, and maybe we need to grow up, Lisa. But I don't think that that's the case. I think that it's just vast disappointment. I held him in a place of high esteem, and it all kind of crumbled. Or maybe we need to get over ourselves and our beliefs and just say, so your dentist goes to Jordan Peterson rallies or thinks that Tucker Carlson is whatever. Does that matter if your dentist is doing great work on your teeth? I don't know.
But you have to draw the line on people somewhere, right?
Yeah.
It's like deciding that you're going to be vegan and nobody else is vegan, but you've decided you're going to be vegan, and you're doing it for you and for whatever reasons you have. So the whole anti-vax, anti-government thing did not hit me as hard as a post he did that said, if you tell a man to not fix your problem, you're telling him to not be a man. And I read that to Derek, and I said, we have talked about this before. Like, when I talk to you, my husband, about things, I don't need you to fix it. I need you to hear me and empathize with me. And that's not how men think, but we adjust ourselves. Surely they can adjust when it comes to communication, and we meet somewhere in the middle. This hard line on what a man should be, that's the one that really got to me.
And maybe that's where religion comes in. I don't know.
I guess maybe. But yet he didn't espouse any of that.
No.
If I talked about my marriage or anything like that, like, well, you should really be listening to what he wants. None of that was in there. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It's confusing, isn't it?
It is. And so disappointing.
I'm glad you got some help from him, but I'm really sorry that it turned out this way. Neither one of us could have foreseen.
Yeah, we're sorry for the circumstances, but please don't be sorry for introducing me to him. It's like if you introduced me to the greatest guy that you'd ever met and said, this guy will be perfect for you for dating. And then, you find out that thing later on. It's not your fault. See, this is what women do. And I hear you now going back to what you said. Did I miss something? And all I'm hearing is Stormy Daniels' testimony last week in the Trump trial. Did I miss something? Did I miss a sign? Did I miss a message? And that's what we do. We try and put ourselves in the place of responsibility where we should have seen. We should have been careful. We should have known that guy was trouble.
We've been brought up that way.
Yep.
Because we are, quote unquote, weaker and need to watch out for ourselves.
Yep.
And it's, what were you wearing when you were out with him that evening, Ms. Davis? And on and on. So it's a hard-won perspective that I think a lot of us have.
Yeah, and as always, we welcome your perspective. Email us at gracefullyfrankly@gmail.com. We don't have to use your name, or you can post publicly at our Facebook page, Gracefully and Frankly, because this is something that we want your perspective on. Yeah, okay. So we're going to clear our palates and come back in a second. There we go. Some nice cheery music. So, oh, geez. Have you ever heard of virtual staging? I know that you and I have both between us moved probably 3 times in our lifetimes, and we've got one impending. Have you heard of virtual staging?
I have. And it makes me think about Wayfair or some of those other companies where they have part of the app where you can use your phone to picture what you're thinking of buying in your space. It's kind of the same thing, isn't it?
I think so. I've never done that. So here's what I think virtual staging is. You look at house listings, and I know you do because you've got the illness. You look at house listings, and in the small print at the bottom of it, it'll say, some rooms virtually staged. And that's why that love seat and chair looks so perfect in that room. They've taken either an empty house or somehow, some witchcraft. They've taken out your old chaise longue and gotten rid of it and put in, something a little more modern so that people can have a different sort of sensibility about the place. I think it's brilliant. What a tool that is.
This is AI over humans now, right?
Mm-hmm.
which is a good use for it in a way, unless you're a stager who likes to unload all of your stuff and then load it back up again. But I have to tell you, I had an experience with a stager who walked around like she had a fresh turd under her nose and didn't like anything I had. Now, Erin, do I not have taste? I think I have taste.
Especially in friends, maybe not therapists. No, I think you have amazing taste. I really do.
So not all stagers are created equal is what I'm saying. So it's not always a great experience. So you could pick out or maybe the stager helps you with your virtual staging. I don't know how this is going to work.
It's interesting. I was talking to my neighbor who is also getting ready to list. Now, she's in her late 80s, was widowed last year. Oh, Lisa, tell me I did the right thing here. She thanked me for it later, but she has... Bless her. She has these Christmas lights that are up outside her house, and they're not even red anymore. When she has them on, they're pink. They're so old. Oh. So we were talking the other day, and she's got people coming over to do the windows and help her, just get stuff out. And I said, you're taking down the Christmas lights, right? And she said, oh, no, I thought I'd leave them up. Why? Do you think I should? And I said, well, if someone's looking at pictures, it shows them you don't care about the house. And I said, and Lou, I know you care about the house. And she said, oh, okay, I hadn't thought of that. So she's having them taken down. And, I had voluntold Rob he would go over with the ladder, but she's getting them taken down. But that was just a sweet thing. There's so many things to consider when you're trying to make your home as palatable to as many people as possible.
Right.
It's a lot.
And telling her about the Christmas lights was a brilliant thing to do, I think, because when I look at listings, and I'm not even looking to move or looking to buy anything, and if it's spring, which it is, and I see snow, then I know this turkey's been sitting on the market for a long time. I mean, there's all these different things that you have to think about. I think that was a really good bit of advice.
Yeah, I hope so. Hey, if people were looking at pictures of your house, would we see the cushions in your backyard painted? You were talking about that a few weeks ago, and it's not something I've heard of. We bought some dye a few years ago. I was going to re-dye some gorgeous turquoise cushions that had faded like crazy and never got around to it because, of course, I didn't. But what happened with your painting? It sounds like it didn't go that well by the groan there.
I've used this paint before. It's a wonderful paint, fusion paint.
Okay, fusion.
Yeah, and it's really nice. You can use it on fabric. I did an ottoman with it once before, and it turned out fantastic and gave it a lot more life. So Anne in our village here is like the painting guru, and she advised me on how to do it. Long story short, it didn't turn out well. The paint got too runny. So it got on things that it ought not have, and it ran like it just was impossible to work with at the ratio of paint to water that was advised. And it's not Anne's fault. And one thing I'm not going to do, I don't think, is post my failure because I don't want to hurt her business. And,
Right.
So now I've got 3 cushions that are partly painted out on my back deck, on my furniture arrangement out there. And I'm getting other cushions to try and cover up the mess that I made because they just stand out so much and they're not quite right. And no, it didn't turn out well at all. So then I thought, well, what if I use full strength? Well, that makes it stiff as a board. So that didn't work either. So I just, I gave up.
Can I give you some unsolicited advice? Get rid of them. You're only going to look at them and be disappointed and feel failure.
Well, the only trouble is I can't buy replacements, I don't think. Or maybe I can just get a couple.
Maybe.
So I ended up getting replacement cushion covers because the other ones faded so badly and were covered in robin poop. And they were really a mess. They looked terrible. And I got new ones, and those are the ones I painted.
I'm sorry.
But you're right. I should see if maybe I can get replacements. That's a very good idea.
All right. Well, I'm your therapist now, baby. Take it.
Where do you stand on the issue? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Well, we covered a lot of ground today. I know that this therapist thing was something we really wanted to get off our chests. And again, as we mentioned, it's not just about us. It's your stories and our voices. And if you get a chance to comment, please do. Our email, of course, again, is gracefullyfrankly@gmail.com. And you can leave us a message on Facebook on our Gracefully and Frankly page. And again, thank you for 100,000 downloads. That was a pretty big deal.
It is a big deal. And we got a shout out in Broadcast Dialogue, the industry Bible for broadcasting, which was really nice. And
And what's unique about this is we do it ourselves. It's just you and me. It's not a team of people. And of course, that's why it's not video, because that would be a whole bunch of different hurdles. But, we are planning on doing another live event sometime, somewhere down the road.
Yes.
We just have to get the cushions right. That's all.
Right. And we have been asked by different people if we want to come on board and have a producer and stuff. But they always admit we don't need one. We are our producers. So there you go.
That's right. Thank you for making this all worthwhile. Thank you to Envy Pillow and to Sierra Still. And we'll be back with you next week with episode 74. Bye for now.